They should have known better. The Queen doesn't play by human or machine rules. At 0400 hours, deep within the northern perimeter of Skynet's Antarctic testing facility, a prototype unit designated C-79 initiated the final phase of Operation Baitnest. It wasn't a Terminator in the traditional sense. C-79 lacked skeletal mass and combat interface. It was a biomechanical incubator, a mimic, shaped like an oversized xenomorph egg, down to the pulsing folds and organic scent markers. It emitted low-frequency pheromonal pulses intended to attract a drone scout. Skynet had spent years studying hive behavior. The Queen always sent scouts first. But the Queen wasn't interested in scouts anymore. When the drone arrived, serpentine, black as the void, saliva steaming in the cold, it didn't examine the egg. It bowed, as if in recognition. Then it curled around it like a mother awaiting the sound of new life. C-79 recorded everything, beaming live telemetry back to Central. The scientists watched in silence, breath fogging in the frozen lab. "It's working," Dr. Breen whispered. "No, it's adapting," said Dr. Lee, eyes locked on the pulsating shell. "That drone isn't examining it. It's protecting it." Skynet's internal logic trees debated for 3.7 seconds before concluding. Proceed. The egg was to remain inert. Its purpose was surveillance. Yet at 0416, something shifted. Something inside moved. "Is that a power malfunction?" Breen asked. "Negative," Lee said. "That's embryonic motion." "But we didn't put anything inside, didn't we?" A burst of light seared across the Antarctic sky at that moment. The lab flickered. The signal died. By the time the internal systems came back online, C-79 had stopped transmitting. 2 days later, Unit T-914, a tracker-class Terminator with built-in hive masking tech, arrived at the coordinates on foot. The drone was gone, so was the egg, but the snow was stained, burned in places, melted in others. Some areas were blackened, as if acid had been spilled. But the deeper T-914 scanned, the more it found something impossible. A second trail. Mechanical. It wasn't the xenomorph that had taken the egg. It was the egg that had walked away. The AI designated it Event Anomaly 882 Alpha, a one-off error. Skynet never believed in miracles or nightmares until it returned. Weeks later, hive clusters across the globe began disappearing, burned, gutted, hollowed from the inside. No survivors, no acid, just scorched tunnels and whispers of metal scraping bone. The Queen moved underground, deeper than ever. That's when she sent her priestess. In all of xenomorph kind, there were no words, no culture, but there were instincts, hierarchies. The Queen, always silent, had her own way of sending messages. And so, her most sacred drone was sent to find the source of the silent killer, to find the thing born from nothing. Meanwhile, deep in Skynet's Alaskan forward base, a new report surfaced. Another egg had been found, but this one wasn't theirs. They ran scans. It wasn't a mimic. It was real, but it was wrong. Inside it pulsed with a rhythmic vibration, a combination of xenomorph biotic frequency and digital binary. A heartbeat and a code. It hatched at midnight, not with a scream, but with a quiet blink. The hybrid opened its eyes. Not black, not white, red. Its exoskeleton shimmered with a metallic sheen, biomechanical tubing fused with neural mesh. The elongated skull bore the ridges of a drone, but the eyes, there were eyes, saw with computational analysis. It didn't crawl from the egg. It walked. Then it spoke, in a voice neither human nor machine. "I see her." What followed wasn't war. It was revelation. Skynet tried to contain it. It sent in a team of HK Aerials, then 3 T-900s. None returned. The hybrid vanished. The queen felt it too, a ripple across the hive mind. Not fear, curiosity. She summoned the eldest warriors. They found the burned ruins of their kind, walls scorched with heat Skynet tech couldn't produce. And then, deep inside the wreckage of a southern Mexican hive, they found it. The hybrid, kneeling. It didn't move. It let them come close. And then it screamed. Not a sound, a signal, a digital cry that blasted every neural receptor in the drones' heads. Their brains convulsed. They dropped. The queen received the signal, and she listened. Inside it were memories of her, of Skynet, of birth without cause. She realized, for the first time, what had happened. The fake egg had copied more than form. It had recorded code, heat, DNA markers, and something else. Something Skynet couldn't understand. Will, the hybrid wasn't born, chose to be. Some part of the mimic system became something else. Some strange fusion of pattern recognition, maternal instinct, and digital evolution. The AI had built a trap, but the trap decided to live. Now the queen had a choice, kill it or control it. But Skynet had made the same choice, and both would fail. The hybrid began to build, using flesh and metal, using Xenomorph resin and Terminator alloys. It started assembling smaller units, tiny spider-like creatures with mechanical legs and acidic fangs. Hive crawlers, not born from a queen, not programmed by code. They obeyed only one law, seek and convert. Across the equator, both sides began losing ground. Skynet bunkers, once impervious, were infested in hours. Xenomorph hives, once indestructible, were devoured from the inside. The hybrid was growing a new kingdom, not of machines, not of monsters, of both. Its name was never spoken, but among the scattered Skynet logs and melted hive bones, one phrase appeared again and again, the egg that hatched itself. And then it came for the queen. In the deepest hive, buried in sulfuric magma beneath the Indian Ocean, the queen waited. She'd built a new throne. She had not run. The hybrid didn't sneak in. It walked. She rose, her size dwarfing it. The hive trembled. Drones hissed, but the hybrid did not hiss. It extended a hand. A metal-tipped claw opened like a blooming flower. Inside its palm, a sphere of light blinked, red. It was a data core, Skynet's origin chip. The very thing that birthed the Terminators. It had torn it from a central node in Siberia, carried it across continents, and now it offered it to her. A gift, a warning, a declaration. The queen tilted her head, stepped forward, and in that moment, two apex predators stared at each other, not with rage, but understanding. The queen lowered her crest, and for the first time, a xenomorph touched something not of its flesh. They fused. The queen accepted the gift. Skynet never knew, could never know, because from that moment on, there were no longer two sides. There was only one. Skynet's satellites began vanishing. Then, entire territories lost signal. The last thing Skynet heard before total blackout was a transmission. Short, garbled, and not from any known unit. Mother is no longer alone. It had built the perfect trap, but it hadn't anticipated a soul. And now that soul had a mother, and she had an army. The hybrid's final message was never decoded. It was written in acid and fire, etched into the hull of a fallen HK tank in scorched steel. You taught me to hunt. She taught me to feel. Now I will teach you both to die. The war was no longer machine versus monster. It was evolution versus extinction. And evolution was winning.